What is up, guys? It's Nate, Heavy Pedal Garage. Thanks for stopping by. You guys really haven't had a proper introduction to this car, so I might do that today. It'd be an easy video. There's going to be some pictures and stuff for you guys. So I've had it for a little over 6 years. Bought it in 2013. It's an Ohio car. It's an Esprit model, and it's in pretty rough shape. It's the original hood that was on it. The Punisher, that was its nickname. I guess it still kind of is. But I originally intended on fixing it up and just getting it on the road and maybe even selling it. And I started in on it and just my OCD kicked in and just kept tearing it apart, going deeper and deeper. Pulled the motor out. Originally it was a 352 barrel. Runs pretty good. Actually sitting over there in the corner, all pickled, ready for a roller project in the future. But started working on cleaning up the engine bay, patching rust. There was a lot of rust on this thing, being an Ohio car. Started in on the floorboards, which I figured would be a great place to learn how to weld, since I hadn't welded before, and just made some patches for the floor. See some of my booger welds in there, but I think it turned out okay. You'll never see it. Cleaned it up with some seam sealer, made it watertight. Both floorboards needed a little bit of work. Patched some rust right here. This is a pretty common spot for F-body rust. Same thing on the other side. And then did some rust repair down here as well on both sides. Bottom side there under the fender. Surprisingly, the rockers were pretty good. Didn't take a whole lot of work on that. Couple patches if I remember correctly. The doors, I mentioned that in a previous video. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. But the doors, I had to fix up the shell of the door, took the skin off. These are aftermarket skins, and got those looking pretty decent. As far as rust repair goes, the front and rear of the wheel well on the rear quarters of both sides got worked over. Put aftermarket patches here and back here. I had to do some custom fabrication for what they call the trunk drop-off panel, which is the piece that's up inside. The back side of this piece. Now, they make aftermarket trunk drop-off panels, but they're really expensive. And since you never see them, I thought I could fabricate some. Again, I'm just trying to learn, so I think that turned out pretty good. Purchased this rear spoiler, the 3-piece rear spoilers from a Trans Am car, I believe it was a 76. And put some work into getting those straightened out. Drilled the trunk. Since it was an Esprit, it didn't have the holes for the Trans Am spoiler. So I made a template and got that all set up. So the trunk actually needed a good bit of work. There was rusty holes, the bumper bracket was chewed up. So I actually cut out the holes and got this bracket removed as well. And I even cleaned up the frame, got it primered in, and I rebuilt that bracket, patched the metal, replaced it, put everything back in nice and tight, and did some work on the trunk gaps as well. Tuned those up with some weld, a little bit of body filler, smoothed everything up, blocked it out, got it looking nice and straight. This rear bumper is an Enduro bumper, and it was garbage. This whole side piece on both sides needed completely rebuilt. I used a 2-part epoxy flexible bumper repair 3M product. Turned out pretty good. You know, did some patches where there was cuts and grooves and spider scratches all along there. I mean, that really took some time to kind of get that bumper straightened out. I can tell you that the trunk, the hinge pockets, the bottoms of these were rusted out, which is pretty common. The little pocket down below. So what I did was I completely removed this whole piece, like surgical removal. It's sandwiched in between the quarter panel metal and a trunk support from underneath. So there's sort of 3 layers of metal in there, and this piece would be the middle. So drilled out the spot welds, got it all, you know, taken apart to the best of my ability, took a bunch of measurements, cross measurements and everything to make sure I got it put back in right. I bought this piece, it was cut out of a donor car, bought it off of eBay, really good price. I figured it was a lot easier than trying to fix these hinge pockets, repair them, and try to get the hinges lined back up. So that was a neat project, it took me a while, but the package tray, this was rusted. The rear window leaked, which I think was, you know, part of the reason that these hinge pockets were pretty gross, the way the water would leak down in there. But the package tray was pretty rough too, so I cut it all out. This metal, and actually quite a bit of the metal that I used in patching, if it wasn't an aftermarket panel, it came from my neighbor's. He's building a 68 C10 Chevy truck, and he had to put a new cab on it. So I got the remnants of his old cab. So I cut it up, and a lot of the metal in this car is 68 C10 metal, so kind of neat. But ironically, this piece came from a door which was off of a 90s Chevy pickup truck that he also gave me. So anyways, Frankenstein. Remember what I said in one of the first videos, she is definitely a Frankenstein. So on around, same stuff on this side that I mentioned on the other. You know, a lot of rust repair, door skins, fender gap alignment. So this is really what I'm shooting for. So as I was pulling this thing apart, I got down to the subframe. You know, on these 2nd gen F bodies, it's not a, you know, a full frame that goes underneath the whole car. There's a subframe that goes back to, you know, just about under where your feet are, and that subframe has 4 bushing points under the body of the car and 2 bushings for the radiator and for the core support. Well, those bushings on this car were completely garbage, and they just fell apart in my hand as I was playing with them. I thought originally I didn't want to take the car apart to that extent, taking the frame off and everything, but when those bushings crumbled in my hand, I felt like I had no choice. So heck, you're in it this deep, so I went ahead. Did a frame off, sandblasted the frame, got it all cleaned up. All the mechanicals on this car have been gone through, all the bushings, etc. You know, just about everything has been worked over. So of course the motor is not the original motor. This is a Pontiac 455. It's actually a 400 block, and it was stroked to 455 cubic inches. It was built by a guy in Oklahoma for me, Len Williams. He shipped it to me, less than load freight, YRC. Ran up to Columbus at their terminal, picked it up, brought it home, and it was a really exciting day to uncrate that and put it in the car. And I spent, you know, quite a few months getting things put together and ready. I also replaced the master cylinder and the proportioning valve. All of the brake lines have been redone. The fuel lines have been redone, and sure there's some others. Oh, the power steering pump. I took the power steering pump apart. You can buy these replacements pretty cheap, but the kits to rebuild them are also super cheap. and it looked pretty doable, so I thought I'd try it, and really it wasn't too bad. Not a ton of parts inside of that thing. It comes apart pretty easy. You know, the blocks of this era are all the same size, whether it's a 350 or 400 or 455. So I was able to use my accessories off of the 350. It's got a new alternator, but the power steering pump is off of the 350. The pulleys are off of the 350. So worked out pretty good. Actually, the distributor that's in there is the distributor for the Pontiac 350. So pretty cool. It's actually a 73 GTO block. So that's kind of neat to get a GTO block, I guess, but whatever. They're all built the same to some degree. So I got my gauges on there. I originally put these on just for the engine break-in, but I kind of like them right there. I'm gonna have, you know, aftermarket gauges in the car, and these will probably stay. It's just kind of nice, I would think, to be able to open the hood and see right in front of you what all is going on with your oil temperature, or your oil pressure, your engine temperature, your volts, and your tach. So that's gonna stay. It's got a new radiator. So here's the front nose. As I've mentioned in past videos, it's not the correct era nose for this second gen. This car is a 75, and this nose is a 70 through 73. But if you want to see the original, that is up there on top. Let me get you under the car here and we'll show you what's going on. Little shot of the headers and oil pan as you move on back. Of course, the transmission. So that is the original Turbo 350 transmission for the car, and I rebuilt that myself, which was a little wild to think that I might jump into something like that, but I had a really good book. We got headers, bought those off of Craigslist, local. On back to the pipes exhaust system, put that together right after I put the motor in, and it's the Race Pro exhaust. So far I really like the tone. It's not quiet by any means, but it's not overly ridiculous as far as an aggressive sound. Until you step on the gas, it does open up and gets pretty throaty. So I haven't had it out on the highway to really know what it sounds like at wide open throttle, but I think it's going to be good. So the rear end, you know, I went through the brakes, took care of what I needed to take care of on that. The differential, pulled it, opened it up, drained the fluid, looked it through, looked fine, put it back together. 273 gears, open rear end. So that, I feel like the rear end has got new shocks, and I think I'm good with that for a while. You know, one day when the car's back on the road and everything is put back together, you know, upgrading the rear gears to a posi rear end, or, you know, just putting a new carrier in there with a better gear set, like a, you know, 323, or, you know, some gears in the 3 Series. Might end up doing that, but at this time I'm not too awfully worried about it. So the whole car was stripped down, all the old paint was taken off, rust was treated, went over the whole car with the DA, got it sanded down, took care of all that rust, got it up to speed with some really good epoxy primer. Go back and check out the past videos. I really appreciate any feedback you guys want to give me. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much a tour of the car, a little bit of back history on what's been going on with this thing. I kind of wish I would have started this channel when I got the car, so the whole thing would be documented, but you know, it is what it is. But go back, check out those old videos, see what I've got on there so far. I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of the backstory. Like, comment, subscribe. You know, it really does take, I'm finding out now, to put together the videos with the music and all the editing and all that. It takes some time, not only putting the work into the car, but putting the work into the videos, which I do enjoy, but you know, bring some tips and tricks hopefully, and show you guys how I'm doing it just here in my garage. And yeah, subscribing is just a way to support that. So once again, thanks guys. Catch me next time.